What's up, everybody? Jimmy here, Time of Steel Garage. I'm out in the shop. Figured I'd try this out, and if you guys miss it, then it should post anyhow. But I wanted to go over the final list for the Merc, right? So we've graduated from fridge, which is major items, to list, which is items that need to be done. But really, I mean, the car drives now. It's just kind of in pieces, so we need to go and put it back together. But anyways, the list. So I'm going to read this to you. Underneath the car, right? So I had to do some cutting on the car to clear the intercooler pipes, and really down here where my finger's pointing, those are pinch welds. I had to ditch those to be able to clear the pipes into the intercooler at the bottom. So I got to weld those seams back up, so for strength, and also we don't rust getting in there, right? And also transmission cross member, I put that in the car and then completely forgot about it. I had it laser cut. It's thick, it's 1/4 inch steel, but it's not painted. So I'm gonna have to support the transmission, take the cross member off, throw some paint on it, put it back on. None of these things on this list are really all that hard. It's just a lot of things left to do. You know what I'm saying? So anyhow, trans wiring. So currently the car is wired for manual shifting. So I have the first 3 solenoids wired, but I don't have the lockout solenoid wired manually or auto, and I don't have the ECU wired for the trans to be controlled by the ECU. So not really even sure I want to do that, but definitely want lockout wired up. And so I got to finish that. That's like 15 wires. There's a hole underneath the shifter when you look up into the trans tunnel where the original shifter came down through the tunnel that my new setup doesn't need. I don't want to weld that up permanently, but I do want to make a nice piece of metal that I can RTV under the hole, so that if I ever want to put a stick in this car, there's already a hole there and I can expand upon it. And let's see here. There's a big hole in the passenger floor for making this transmission fit. So that's the elephant in the room, right? I got to weld that hole in the floor, and it's really not that hard. I ordered a Summit Racing universal trans tunnel that I'm going to cut up, but I got to make sure I have enough room to get wrenches in there once I actually weld it up. So I might widen that a little bit before I put the tunnel cover on it and final weld it in. But I need to put the strength back in the car, but I also want to be able to service the car down the road and make trans cable adjustments without it being hard. So again, not a big deal, but that's just going to take time. Let's see here. Intercooler system. So I ditched all the junk intercooler pipes. You can see them on the floor right there from Amazon. I mean, the Chinese crap that they sell on there, it's like not even round. It's like 22 gauge at best. It bends really easy. So in my opinion, if you're building a car you're serious about, use that to mock up a system, and then you keep it for scrap, throw it in the trash, whatever you want to do. But I went ahead and ordered nice 16 gauge aluminum from Ace Race Parts, and I believe they're up in Washington State, but they're an American company. This stuff's made in America. It's actually high grade. Their whole business is making high grade tubing for the automotive industry. So all the stainless pie cuts and stuff that I did the DeLorean exhaust with, all Ace Race Parts. Highly recommend them. So I got those are going to be here on Wednesday. I've got my tile 45 or 50 millimeter wastegate I need to put on, or not wastegate, recirc valve. I'm not running a blow-off valve in this car because I'm running the stock ECU, which is MAF based. So we'll be recircing the air to behind the MAF pre-turbo. So I've got to weld that onto the new pipes once they get here, and then I have to weld on a recirc fitting into the elbow in front of the turbo. Then I have to attach a hose. Now, I'm not going to, let me show you guys here. Normally, you'd put a recirc valve or a blow-off valve right here. A lot of pro drag racers run them right off the bottom of the turbos now. I'm going to end up mounting it over here on the hot side, so I can recirc to that elbow. It'll just look cleaner. In theory, it'll work the same. It's all pressurized air. It's just when the throttle blade closes, it's going to push it back into this tube after this MAF. And that way the engine's already accounted for the air and it doesn't spike super rich and stall, which is a lot of cheap tuner cars when they run a blow-off valve because they think it sounds cool. They'll all stall once they hit the boost and get their foot out of it. And my first drag truck was like that, so I have good experience with it. Obviously we have to mock up, cut, weld, do whatever we got to do to install new intercooler pipes, but I basically am going to reproduce the exact thing I already had. I just am doing it with higher grade stuff. And if down the road we want to weld stuff up, we can do that. But I don't really like doing that for a car that's driven. The only sensor we don't have in the car right now is a boost sensor. And that's this guy right here. And that's going to need to go in this pipe on the throttle body side. Let's see here. The engine compartment, I've got wire loom coming, so every wire in here that I can hide and make pretty, I'm going to. I've got the engine cover, it's going to go back on here. And once this thing's all put together, you will only see the wiring that you need to see, and this will be a lot cleaner. I have already ditched all the ABS stuff. We got a brand new master cylinder in it. I've cut the brake lines back. I'm going to replumb all that. This is an ABS delete now, and I got to make another cut here to clear the cold side pipe that's going into the throttle body. I've got to put the engine cover back on it. I do have a boost controller coming from Real Street. So right now this wastegate is just open to the atmosphere, and it's got, I think, about a 10 to 11 pound set of springs in it. But I'm going to put a manual wastegate boost controller in there to, we'll dial that in on the first test drive. But okay, brakes, we already talked about the brakes a little bit, but I got rid of the old master cylinder. I did restore the reservoir. It's up there on the counter. And we cut out about 30 pounds of garbage. I'm going to end up cleaning all these little studs and stuff out of here that we don't need. And it's really going to clean up the engine compartment, and it's going to give us the room we need, because the issue is the ABS pump gave us no room behind the headlight to run a pipe to the throttle body. So I need it for the intercooler pipes. And this car's never had ABS that's worked, and I don't want it on this car anyway. Body. So we stripped everything back off the car because I want to do another coat of clear coat. And I dropped the bumpers off at a professional body shop. We're going to go gloss black and clear on those. I did restore the grill. That's looking pretty awesome. If you guys have been paying attention, you can find some shorts on my channel on that if you missed it. And I think it just needs one more coat of clear, maybe two. But I really think that one coat will do it. Hey, Jack, what's up? Carl, how's it going? So anyhow, I think maybe one more coat of clear, two coats of clear, but we're going to do that in my garage where I can control the temperature. And then we'll put the new bumpers on, put the headlights in, put the taillights in. The cool thing is we're at a point with this car where everything that's happening to it is the last time it's happening to it. If it goes back on the car, it's permanent install. We've taken everything out of the car. It's not a storage device anymore. And yeah, I'm doing great. I just figured I'd try this live thing out for you guys and read this list that nobody wants to watch in a video anyway. But the real car guys, I know Jack's a real car guy. Carl, you probably are too. You like to know the small details. So anyways, once I get the new brake lines in, so these Mercedes run an ISO or whatever you call it, bubble flare, not a double inverted flare like American cars run. So I had to order another brake tool to make these lines properly. And then all I'm going to end up doing is teeing the left front and the right front here, and that'll come into the back of the master here. And then this rear line right here will go into the front of the master cylinder. So that'll be super simple and get rid of a lot of stuff. And after that, it's just bleed the system and the brakes are back online. I've already rebuilt all the brakes in the bottom of this car. So, I mean, the brake system essentially, once I finish this work, is brand new. We talked about the body already. So interior wise, I already washed all the carpet that I could take out of the car easily. And once we get the trans patch welded in on the floor over there, we will reinstall the Mercedes soundproofing and the Mercedes carpet back into it. I've got a new driver's door card and an 80s cassette storage center console thing that was an option for the 124. You can see all the parts on the shelf back there. And I'll paint those to match the interior. And I do need a stereo in this car, and it's probably the last thing I'll do, but I'm not driving without a stereo, so gotta do a stereo. I wish Jack lived close because I would just pay Jack to do it. But I think all of us got our start in auto stereo and wiring in high school, but to me, it's not fun to do anymore. I'm not into it like Jack is. The only other interior issue we have is the stupid 3-in-1 gauge that's in there. I tell you, glow shift gauges, not really a fan. You can read into that what you want. But it's not holding its memory settings like it's supposed to, so I got to double check the wiring on that. I've already replaced one of those gauges under warranty, and the car hasn't really been on the road yet, so I like autometer gauges. I like, Dakota Digital track, stuff like that. But anyhow, transmission, we already talked about the final wiring on that. The shifter stops are way off. So the only test drive I've done on the car is up the street and back. So a 1/16 of a mile, and my shift stops are way off. So what we're gonna end up doing is taking all the shifter stops out and resetting them. You can see them right there. They're just little 1/4-inch wide bushings, basically. We'll reset all those shifter stops and then take it for a drive. And all the classic cars I've done, especially when you have a brand new shifter cable like that, it's gonna stretch as you drive it, and you'll have to make adjustments a couple of times. So we'll keep messing with the transmission. Already talked about painting the cross member. Fluid wise, it's got about 8 to 9 quarts of ATF in it right now. Actually, I think I wrote it down. I don't know. I think it's got 8 quarts in it. It checks out fine hot at idle, but I want to drive it and then come back and check the ATF level again. But the transmission, when I drove it up the street and back, it shifted firm, crisp. I'm pretty stoked on that. If you remember, we completely rebuilt the valve body and we put a shift kit in it. But the transmission was unknown status, and I paid like $250 for it. So it's already a win that it moves. Coolant system. The coolant system is dialed. The only thing that we haven't done is, you can see this pink stuff all over. It's because I don't have an overflow system yet. I have the overflow tank and everything, but the way I thought I was gonna mount it's not gonna work. So I'm gonna end up having to weld a couple of brackets in to mount that. And then the coolant system will be done. I have all the parts, I just need to do it. PCV system. So PCV system is non-existent currently. You can see the stock PCV valve and the vent for the passenger side. The way the stock system worked, the hose just literally went over here to the intake, and then this side went over here pre-turbo, create the vacuum needed to flow everything through the system. I could just do that, but I've kind of learned my lesson on boosted cars. You really need a good crankcase system, so I'll probably run a recirc can, catch can setup in there. That's really the recirc valve, welding that on and then doing the PCV system. Those are the last systems that aren't done. And cooling system and all these other things need little things, but the other systems are non-existent, so I got to finish those. And then really just take it for a real test drive. And cool thing, if those have been paying attention, I looked it up today. The very first video I posted on this build was December 27th, 2022. So 2 years is coming up, and I really want to have this done by then. We've got the holidays coming. We've got, a week is a wash for that. So I've really only got a couple of weeks to do this. So, the whole lose the shop thing, I'm going to try real hard to have this thing driving on the road by December 27th. So that's my goal. And if you've been paying attention, a lot of little stuff has been done. I got the upper intercooler mounts welded. I welded a tab here for the oil cooler. ECU is back final mounted in the glove box. We dropped the whole exhaust, added another hanger, put that back on. We've done cleaning with the carpet. I restored the grill. I put the ECU back in the glove box and cleaned that all up. So a lot of little stuff has happened, but the ECU situation, I don't know if I ever explained that to you guys, and got 2 of you here, but the ECU I thought was bad. And it turned out that my ECU was fine, and the issue was this throttle body. So we put a used throttle body in it. I tried a TPS sensor, that didn't work. This track throttle body uses 2 TPS sensors. There's one on this side, one on the other side. One is for the pedal position and one is for the throttle position. There's also a clutch motor sensor on the bottom. So something was going on in there where the old one is still on the shelf over there. I might try to fix it, but that fixed our problems with our surging idle and our inconsistent idle. And then I had bought a spare ECU and tried to basically have it restored, and it didn't work. I ended up getting my money back on that. So if you're out there and you want to run a stock ECU on one of these cars, they're all getting old at this point, and it's really a crapshoot. You have to expect that you buy one off eBay or whatever, it's 50-50 chance if it's going to work. So the one I have works. Hopefully it works for a long time. The good news is to go to a standalone on this car would be really easy. I would really just have to change my injectors, put a PMP harness in, and do a couple of small wiring changes, and it would really probably take me a day to wire a standalone into this car. But I don't want to do that. I like this thing, it runs like a top now. So now we're just in the final countdown with this list right here. But once this list is done, I mean, this thing is a legit driver. So it's a lot of work to do in a short time to get there, but honestly, if I had helpers and a crew, it would be like a 2-day job, but by myself, it's going to take me a few weeks. So anyways, I wanted to try this live thing out. Thanks, Jack and Carl and whoever else is in here for checking it out. And the rest of you, I guess you'll watch it in past tense. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving and has a happy holiday season here. We'll see you next time.